Zoning Commission to order. First order of business is the appointment of alternates, and we need one alternate, I believe, yes. So
We only got one.
we only got one alternate here, so you are it.
Works.
For Ann. Okay, first order of business is the approval of the minutes of January 4th. Anybody have any comments on the minutes or corrections?
I did notice that there was a bit more description in these minutes, which I thought was very nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I did go back to old minutes because there was some reference in this one to a previous call, a previous meeting, and I couldn't remember whether I was at that meeting. I was not. And so I noticed that you were right, that there was a lot more detail, so this is nice to have a little additional detail.
Appreciate it.
It's moving in the
Anyway,
right
on
direction.
line 41 on the first page, cure leaf is misspelled. Or whatever that's worth. Cure leaf. I didn't see anything else. Anybody else?
I have a point to make relative to page 4, paragraph 6. It's the upper thing on page 4, where the very end of it refers to a completion date. No, I'm wrong, not that. Yeah, that sentence, a completion date for the second commercial building of June 30th. That isn't what they offered, to bring it to the shelled completion of shelled status. Completion of the building is, we haven't even
Right.
talked about that. And so,
Right,
don't know
but the
what year
agreement
that's ever
was
gonna
it
get
had to be shelled,
Right.
right?
so I don't have a word to substitute there, but,
Completion of the shell.
well,
Completion.
it's better than
service.
what it is, but shell doesn't have a, I'm no construction expert, but I don't think there's a real definition. I like to see drawing the comparison to the other building. 'Cause that's what we discussed. I'm not sure we have the same understanding what it means, but they were committed to bring it to the same level of completion as the other building. And shelled keeps coming up, so,
I mean, we've fallen into using that word,
I know.
I think
all of us at least.
it describes what's going to
That's
be.
actually what we discussed.
Yeah, so let's change that to
In this,
completion of the shell.
in the same paragraph, it says that they will give, the Silverman Group will give the commission a monthly status update. Could you just add on both the construction and the rental? Because we had asked about that. Oh, I am so sorry. I am on page 4, line 11. Sure.
Okay, anything else? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as modified?
Make a motion.
Jackie,
I'll second.
second by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, the minutes are approved 6-0. Okay, next order of business is application ZC 2242, Stephen Antonio, 5 Ants LLC. You want to tell us what you'd like to do?
Sure. As you might recall, I came,
Give us your name and address.
what? Stephen Antonio, 133 Holcomb Street, sorry. I came to you folks a couple years ago with a sort of grandiose plan to enlarge the building. We were gonna bump it out. And post-COVID, we couldn't even find anyone to bid on it. And the bids that we were getting were pushing it into 7 figures, which was really not what we were intending to do. As you may be familiar with, when you come into the restaurant, there's 2 doors when you come into the inner vestibule that make it somewhat hard to go in and out of the restaurant. With that in mind, we came up with a much truncated plan to just pull the vestibule, which is in the building right now. You go in the first 36-inch door, you take an immediate 90-degree turn to the second 36-inch door. It's tough on a handicapped person, but it's a byproduct. It's for everyone, not just the handicapped. By taking that vestibule and literally flipping it to the outside of the building, it would still remain under the existing portico. We could put in two 36-inch doors, so it's a double entry going in. And then also, I'm not sure if your packet displays it, it might have said we weren't doing the handicapped entrance. Actually, we are. That just, I lost the communication relaying it to staff. But the existing ramp for handicap access has a new 42-inch door at the end of it. So it's actually vice versa. I got it backwards when I was explaining it. There's also a handicapped entrance now to the vestibule area. And it all sits in a pocket, I think it's in your packet, underneath where the portico is now. So there's 8 columns holding up the portico as it stands. Basically, we would be boxing in the 4 columns. These 2 inner ones it would actually go behind it so the facade would not change. And it would be right behind it. It would also contain the further back 2 columns, and that whole entrance between those 2 columns where it goes into the brick would be demolished. As you may recall, it's the 36-inch door and then a 48-inch window next to it. It would now be a 7-foot wide opening going into the actual building. And that would remove that entire vestibule area and honestly relieve the pressure at takeout versus in-house seating. It turns into a little bit of a cluster. The other deviations from the original approved plan is there's no reason without the bump out to move the Statue of Liberty, so that stays as is, where it is. The siding will be replaced on the entire A-frame. It will look exactly the same vertical groove planking on the face of it. On the side will be a standing seam roof that will match Hoops and Hops, but not in color. Eventually, we may change the Hoops and Hops color to the red shade that we have chosen for the standing seam on the sides of the A-frame. And the A-frame initially, per that plan, was going to bump forward an additional 4 feet out from its existing point. It would not be bumped out because there's footings under it that can, hold it up now. So there's no reason to create problems where there aren't. So that's the short of it. I don't mean to make it super mini, but that's what we're looking to do. The actual, just to further expand on what this vestibule is, it's actually a moving vestibule. We came up with it with Henry Miga. The top is actually a channel that holds the glass panels, and that allows us to not have to re-pour the front sidewalks and stuff because expansion and contraction for the small amount that would happen would be within those channels as they slid up and down. There's also some flower boxes you can see there. That's where the new knee wall will be. The knee wall will encompass the entire vestibule, so it's not floor-to-ceiling glass. The doors, of course, are floor-to-ceiling. But the rest is, this is the stone here. It's box stone, but basically, it's a stone knee wall underneath it. Oh, and the other thing is, so you may recall on the original thing, within the A-frame, we took cues from the Mark Twain house. That wasn't just a weird dream I had when I came up with, it had like a balcony with louvered doors and all. I don't know if you guys remember, it was pretty extensive and eclectic. The reason for that is because in this type of scenario where we're the gateway for the northern area, we did want to be somewhat of a landmark. We thought a way to tone it down would just be a traditional Roman clock set in the A-frame. It's just much more subdued than when I stopped to consider what we were proposing. I might have you guys past. But once I stopped to look at it, it was a little bit maybe excessive.
So you were going to originally put the horse on top, is that right?
You still are.
Oh.
For Jeff to bring that up.
Okay.
He didn't want to mention it.
I did see a picture with a horse.
Bring it up.
There's no reason for the horse to be there.
Why the extension of the A-frame isn't required. You can
There he is, see on the picture?
There it is, okay.
28 pounds. Isn't it beautiful?
Isn't there a height
And
ordinance?
I love it. She checked, honestly. So,
That rendering's missing Statue of Liberty.
yeah, well, that's actually the one that was passed.
Oh, yeah, that's the old one.
I'm just showing you that so you can see the horse.
I knew there was a horse somewhere. I saw
The
it.
horse would be lower because it's 4 feet back, which translates to about a 3-foot drop.
Oh, thank God.
I know.
Did you say yes, you are doing the patio? Because in our notes, I thought.
No, so at this point too, because we wanted to make the proposal what you can expect it to be in 12 months.
Okay.
You know, or even honestly within 6 months. Will we do the patio? More than likely. But we got into a new thing with, there's these new kind of doors that basically they turn sideways and fold, so that entire area, you could open it up, so it wouldn't just be a patio.
Yeah.
It would actually be that whole
Indoor,
room would become a terrace room.
That's great.
It wasn't worth bringing that at this juncture because it's too big a step.
Okay.
And honestly, it's, even this renovation honestly is very expensive. So it's not within the plan at this point to do it. Will we do it in the future? More than likely. But again, it was relevant to just break it off because it's a probably, not a, this is the plan. So I'll revisit you when we come up with a plan on that.
So you'll look at the patio and I'll ask you to take the horse down?
Yeah.
You'll be used to
Are
it.
there, anybody else have comments?
Yeah,
Questions?
will the clock have hands? And two, how are you going to light it?
There are two features within it. It does come with an opaque thing, so you could do lighting within the A-frame set back from it. The other plan was if we don't do that, on the front of the portico, you could put 2 spotlights shining back towards the clock.
All right, just making sure it's not translucent. You can't see through the clock from the
What?
behind.
It's
It's
not.
not-
opaque, so it is
Yeah.
translucent.
Well, it's,
just to
no,
be
no,
clear.
no, opaque and translucent are opposites.
Right.
Yeah.
Translucent's clear, right?
Right. So you can see through it. So it's not lit from behind.
It could be though.
Well, not
But
by
it
our
would
regs, it can't be.
From behind, I'm trying to think of how to articulate.
You would vote against it, Steve.
The Design review
You
would not
vote
allow
against
that.
it.
Like internal
They
to
didn't
the
bring it
clock,
up. I didn't present to DRB.
internal to the clock, there's not a light behind it.
Okay.
There is not, but if you
Right.
put, I'm just trying to be upfront, a light within the A-frame because it's opaque.
It would just shine on
It
it.
would
To
illuminate.
clarify, it's
Right,
not a
right.
sign.
Right. It's not inside.
It's not a sign.
It's not
a
internally
sign.
lit.
Illumination doesn't,
What makes it not a sign?
The clock?
It's a clock.
we would not call that a sign.
Okay.
It's not advertising.
Yeah, it's not a brand.
architectural
There it is.
Right.
Feature being the key word.
Ooh,
Okay. More
doesn't have
questions?
hands either.
Spotlights, since you already offered, that could be on the table.
I don't know if it would look as good because, just to be upfront, and I haven't really dealt with this yet, but because you'd be shining spotlights against, not to say it's grandfathered in, an internally illuminated sign. So it's sort of contradictory in nature.
Questions? More questions?
Also on the clock, it occurs to me, and I don't know anything other than, what my eyes tell me, that clock is gonna be a little bit hard to read from the street versus one that doesn't
Within
have.
reason, it's 60
all
inch.
those- yeah, I know.
If you get much
Right.
bigger, it doesn't.
No, I'm not talking about the size, but there's so much going on there. If you just had 12 letters and 2 hands, you get rid of the minute markers and the 2 rings, the inner and outer rings. It'll
I
be
can definitely
simpler.
ask the clock guys if they can do that.
Well, I've looked at a lot of clocks, especially from a company up in the Boston area that makes those electric
This
clocks.
was through, most of my negotiations have been with a company called Tower Clock. I believe they're out of Pennsylvania.
Well, anyway, the clock doesn't change, they just change the face
Right.
to give it lots of different looks. I'm gonna support this, but I would look for something simpler.
Okay, I can
Yeah.
understand the clean lines of that.
The other thing I was curious about is, I'm not sure what the horse is gonna mount on.
The
It's
course?
the horse.
Unicorn.
Oh, a platform, the same platform that was originally proposed.
So the peak of the structure beneath
Comes up,
stays.
and then ironically, it's like an
Okay,
inverted peak.
Yeah,
And
okay,
then a flat platform that it has metal straps
Fine.
that strap it down to it.
got it, thank you.
So essentially what you're saying is you've dialed back on what you were gonna do before, because I wasn't here on the original meeting.
Yeah, so
You're gonna enclose you're gonna remove the front window that you have now and the little atrium you have now. You're gonna replace it with some other window with double doors, as well as double doors into the little area underneath the portico. So that's really all you're looking to do, is enclose that,
Right.
double doors, and then a door for the handicap ramp.
Correct.
And then the siding changes, whatever the
Correct,
little.
yeah.
Yeah.
Simplified.
Okay. I got it.
I'm good.
Donna,
I'm good.
do you have any staff comments?
The design review board reviewed it this evening and forwards it to you with a positive recommendation as presented.
Okay. There are no more questions? Can we have a motion to, there is a motion in our,
I can do a separate motion, there's in the script.
okay, anybody want to make that motion?
I'll do it. I move to approve application ZC number 22-42 of Stephen Antonio 5 Ants LLC applicant, site plan amendment for the construction of a plus or minus 116 square foot vestibule and facade improvements for the property located at 1185 Hop Meadow Street, Assessor's Map I-05, Block 412, Lot 001, Zone B2, with the understanding that an administrative zoning permit must be obtained.
I'll second.
Any further comments?
Do we want to give staff the ability to approve a different clock design? If he finds one?
I would just remind, so maybe it's important to remind you, the reason we're back here is that there was a condition on this approval, which is a condition we don't always write, that said any changes to the design shall return to the zoning commission. So I would tell you that normally, much of this might have been administrative and we might have reviewed it, but since you had that condition, that is why we brought it back to you.
Yeah, we didn't trust the unicorn.
It's not even, it's a golden horse.
It could have been a unicorn.
I love it, Kevin.
All right.
So,
who made the
so
motion?
do we need, is that
Is that,
covered by the new motion, or do we need to state that?
No, I think you should
We should state it.
All right, so then we'll add also that staff has permission to make any design changes to the clock as presented by the owner.
Who seconded it?
second.
Okay, it's okay with you? All right, any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, it carries 6-0. Thank you, Steve.
Great, thank you all for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, the next order of business is our cannabis situation. And as everybody knows, the Board of Selectmen is in the process of banning or prohibiting cannabis retail sales for 18 months. Partly because they anticipate a referendum and they want to make sure there's an opportunity for that at the next municipal election. That leaves us in an interesting position. So we have our town attorney here to give us what our options are. I think one of the things that we should be concerned with is that if we take no action, the state statute will take effect in various parts of it. So
Not
I
until
think-
May, because we have the moratorium no matter what.
we have a moratorium until May, but
So I was just gonna remind you just of a couple things, but maybe it's just helpful again to reframe. It's been a while since we closed the public hearing and continued deliberations. But just remember, the record is closed. Commission has to rely on that record for your decision-making. Can't receive any new testimony. You can, of course, ask staff or the town attorney questions related to process, options, legal issues, those kinds of things. So that can be, those are questions we can answer, and we can clarify something that's on the record as well. But, so, we know that the board took action, but you got a staff report that suggested several options. One of them is that you can continue your work on the, so Board of Selectmen directed staff to draft an ordinance prohibiting retail cannabis only for that 18-month period. So it's silent and it does not affect other cannabis establishments defined under the state code. So, essentially what I'm talking about is the manufacturing, cultivation, producing, packaging, food and beverage, those kinds of things. And we have included those in the draft that you had been reviewing that went to public hearing as permitted by special exception in your I-1 and I-2 districts. So I think Bob will tell you, one of your options is to continue down that path, addressing the manufacturing portion. We think that you can probably do a couple of things with the retail. We obviously have to amend the current draft to remove, at least somehow either remove the retail outright, because we say, right now it says retail permitted in B1 and B2, or B3, excuse me. So we need to adjust that in some fashion. We could take one option to affirmatively place in the retail categories not permitted. We could revise the draft text to say now, retail cannabis not permitted in B1, B2, B3, those kinds of things. Or we could be silent on that. We could just take it out and just assume, we've got an ordinance, potentially, if the Board of Selectmen approves, you'd have an ordinance. So, and I think we've done that sometimes where that Board of Selectmen ordinance just, trumps everything and we don't match it in the zoning ordinance. What other options you want to talk about?
Well, I think it would be a good idea, the public hearing is closed, the moratorium is kind of in place. It's probably a good idea for the zoning commission to hold off doing anything until the ordinance is presumably passed and made effective. And then you can look at the ordinance and see specifically what it says. I have drafted the ordinance, it's under review by the town manager and George, and I suspect we'll be talking about it tomorrow. But it's specific to retail sales. And in my mind, that leaves every other form of cannabis-related use subject to their regulation. I like the idea of saying not permitted instead of just leaving it blank, because the idea is you want to tell the reader of regulations what they can and cannot do. And you could put an asterisk on it and, per ordinance draft effective next day for 18 months so that the reader knows, well, maybe this will come up again. But I think that leaving it blank may be a bit vague, and spell it out, say not permitted per ordinance, and then see what happens in 18 months. If there is a referendum in either direction, of course you can have a referendum in favor of retail sales or opposing retail sales. Presumably you could have two questions at the same time, which would be a mess, but you can. That referendum would trump the ordinance, because think of it like the town meeting. It's really a town meeting voting by machine is what it is in Simsbury charter. So we just don't know at that. Do I need the question or not? What to say? I think that was one of the driving factors for the Board of Selectmen. You don't want to deprive the citizens of the opportunity to have a referendum question. There was a group who attempted it last November, but they started too late, and it's 10% of registered voters, which I think is around 1,800 signatures. Anyone who's ever tried to get 1,800 signatures on a petition, that's a tall order. But people may try and they may succeed. Maybe be a question this fall, because it has to, the statute is very clear. It has to be at a general election means selection of officials. It can't be at the budget referendum in May, so it's got to be November. I think everybody's understanding that. So I personally think the option, and George did a very nice job of spelling it out, the option where you say do whatever you're gonna do with the other forms of cannabis, activity. But for retail, I think regulations should say not permitted per ordinance or something. And then, take another look at it in 18 months. And maybe the board of selectmen extends it, maybe they don't, but it'll sunset 18 months from the effective date. That's the way it reads now.
I'm just curious, I'm sorry, but if we were to vote and not pay attention to the ordinance and just say, we didn't approve it, like in other words, if we were to say in our documentation, in our regulations that we don't approve it, does that in 18 months, in other words, could we just not approve it and then in 18 months it doesn't make a difference? You know what I mean? I'm still a little unclear as
That's an
to.
interesting question. Could you, as a zoning commission, because as you know by now, either the zoning commission or the board of selectmen can take this action.
Yeah.
It's a little strange, but that's the way it reads. Could you prohibit it
Yeah,
without a sunset? I suppose you could.
okay, I'm just curious. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. I'm just wondering.
That,
We could, why couldn't we?
No, that's what I'm saying. I just wanted to
Well,
verify. So
but
we
then-
could, that's
then
what
if-
he's
then
saying.
If you had a referendum on the question, and it is positive or negative, depending on
Yeah,
how you
it was
word it,
positive.
where people in town say, yeah, we do want to allow it. Well, I don't think the state reg allows the public to say that you can have it if the boards say no.
the referendum would trump your regulation. If there's
Okay.
a townwide referendum in favor of retail sales and it passes, that trumps the regulation and it trumps the ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, would
Now-
go positive too, okay.
But
In order for
recognize-
us to regulate it, where it's being sold in retail, I'm afraid, my question was if somebody proposed a referendum that approved the sale, would that then default to the statutory, to the legal statute thing where any retail location?
I don't think so.
In other words, I wouldn't want
So
us
then
to
it
be
would come
shut
back to
out of
zoning.
making
Then it
a,
would come back to us.
My reaction to that is the referendum allowed under the statute is limited to are retail sales allowed or not allowed? And the statute's very clear that if retail sales are allowed, the zoning commission has broad discretion in regulating where and when and how, and hours of operation, all the special permit type restrictions. It would be my opinion that even if the referendum passed in favor of retail sales during the prohibition, it would come back to you for regulation under zoning. It would make no sense to me at all that the petition process could override the authority of the zoning commission to regulate the land use aspects of cannabis sales.
Is that something we can do now, though? Is our regulation for where it could be sold if a referendum was in favor of it?
It would be difficult to do it now because if the ordinance passes, retail sales are not allowed and
Right.
you can't allow zoning regulations to permit use that's not permitted in the town ordinance, essentially. The interesting question you raise is, can you double up on the prohibition, say, we don't care what the Board of Selectmen does, we're gonna prohibit it. I suppose you could do that, but your legislative body has said, their policy decision is, let's take an 18-month pause and see what happens.
So, yeah, because I guess what I would prefer to do is to do the changes we need to do about manufacturing and the new definitions. So continue down the path we're on. Actually, the only real change would be to not have it permitted be in the B3 within, whatever it is, 1,000 feet of 44. If we just said no there, so for right now, our regs would be no, it's not allowed. So we could do that, and then 18 months from now, we could start the process over and do a new public hearing and then put that back and make that just that one little change to say it is allowed within, the 1,000 feet of 44.
I think that's, in my view, that's the recommended course, because that's the least confusing to the.
Okay, well, I didn't hear you say that. I thought you said, got an asterisk that, it's subject to an ordinance, and I'm just saying, let's just go ahead as the commission, just do it cleanly, and our regs would show, no, it's not approved. And so if anyone came and looked at our regs, they would say that's not approved, and then let us change it after
That's not
things happen.
the retail cannabis.
Yeah.
So
in the
if a referendum, it's voted yes for the sale in November, what time frame would zoning have to put the sale in one area?
Well, that's a good question. I guess we'd have to look at how the petition question was phrased.
I'm worried it would open us up to too
Yeah,
broad.
Presumably, it would be effective on the date of passage, because that's when referendum questions are effective.
Mhm.
Perhaps when the town clerk certifies the results.
So the referendum is effective the first Monday of the next month succeeding the election.
Yeah, statute gives us.
So December 1st,
So there's 30 days, George, to,
less than 30.
okay, to write?
There's 30 days to approve a,
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
statute gives you
A buffer.
30 days
Okay.
buffer.
Well, that's not enough time with the public hearing that we would have to go through to change the regs.
Yeah, you probably miss it by about 5 days or so between the notice and, but you could hold a public hearing and vote that night if you want.
Yeah.
You
So-
could even schedule a public hearing before the referendum date in anticipation. And then cancel it or whatever, so we give you some time.
But if we missed that 30-day window, or whatever number of days it is, then that first Monday of the following month, if we don't have anything in our regulations that specifies, conceivably, somebody could just apply to do it anywhere?
Well, it wouldn't be called out of the specific retail use, so presumably yes, but you would know that because they can't even come in and get your special permit without a state license. So I think you'd have to come in with a state license for a location in Simsbury, and you'd know that.
Yeah, but if they did it the day after the referendum,
Yeah, they could.
Right.
If they have a state license.
and we could turn them down, and they could take us to court.
I know, we're trying to avoid that.
I know, but why? I mean, I think that
Well, they couldn't come in the next day, they have to wait 30 days, I'm sorry.
it'd have to be, and we at that point would be prepared, I think, to have a regulation that we agreed on, and we could have a public hearing and vote it. And if,
You already have that regulation in the can, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm proposing that we say no, not
Right.
put in the conditional.
No, but I mean, it's drafted.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
and then when you,
But if we don't put in the conditional and they don't have a referendum, then we've effectively said no.
No.
right, until the
Which-
selectmen finish
For the 18-month
their
period.
decision.
But then if we don't have per ordinance, then it looks like we just said no.
We
And
are saying
what's
that.
what's gonna instigate any kind of,
So you're saying annotate the regulation saying per ordinance.
well, I'm uncomfortable leaving that out because if we
Well,
just
we
leave
can
it.
we just start the process over
You
again.
start the process over
But
again.
what if we don't, if we're not inspired to start the process over because a lot of us are comfortable with the no?
Then
Then you made your decision.
you have, we've made a decision, and our elected,
But we've never really talked about who of us want to say no and who of us want to say yes at that point. I'm just throwing that out there.
well, first of all, there'll be a new commission, because there's
No,
another
that's
election.
true. That's true.
So,
But what my point is though, if we don't put that little disclaimer on there, it just looks like a no vote
yes,
unless anything else comes up.
but if the selectmen vote at the end of 18 months to permit it, then the
It
onus
has
will
to
be
come
on
back
us.
again.
The onus will be on us
Okay.
to act.
All right.
Well, I guess, Donna, because I was kind of thinking this myself, like after all this time that we've had with all these people who've come and spoken to us on both sides and all that, do you still want to vote? You know what I mean? Like, do you want us to vote? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's not the point. That's why I was just more comfortable with the
Yeah.
fact that we didn't actually vote.
Yeah,
So it's not permitted, but we didn't actually vote on that.
right.
Well, we would.
We will.
We would,
Yeah.
if we went the route, just say no, we would have voted. Right?
We're going to have to make we're going to have to amend the proposed
It's 3
regulation
to
to
3,
say
it's not gonna
no.
pass.
But the
And
only
then vote on
reason I would be voting no would be because of an ordinance.
Yeah, so you're not
Correct.
voting what you really,
Right.
I hear you
Right.
say.
So that's why I would want that in there.
Well, you could state that on the record, in minutes.
Yeah, it wouldn't be in the, it wouldn't be in the actual written code, though.
Right, I think what you're saying is, the regulations, you have no.
It's just a thought that I had.
That the reason it's not prohibited is largely, at least at this time, due to the ordinance, which is how they.
It's just,
So there's
Thought
actually two
process.
timing issues there, because there could not be a referendum, right?
right.
Because that would start it in December. But, so if that doesn't happen, then we go to the 18 months, which is after that. So that gives us more time to, you know,
That would be in September or something.
yeah, that gives us more time. Well, the selectmen would still have to figure out what they want to do after the 18 months.
Right.
Yeah, and then, and sorry, to go back
And
to
that
the
will
whole
be a new
thing.
board too.
Yeah, so if they, after 18 months, don't have a referendum, but do approve it, then
Or
again,
simply take no action and let it.
Sit
And then-
and it's no.
Yeah, the way it reads now is
Yeah.
the ordinance
If they don't
expires
do
in
anything,
18
it's
months.
no.
They have to do
Yeah.
Right.
something
Prior to the ending of 18 months.
or nothing. If they do nothing, that is not prohibited, and it falls back to you to do whatever you want to do.
So then the state takes precedent. The state statute.
Yes, unless you take an action
Yeah,
as a
unless-
zoning
yeah.
commission to further the prohibition, if you choose.
So,
Right.
I don't, you know, what I'm not understanding the distinction between, we have a moratorium in place that expires in May sometime. So, one of the scenarios that's possible now is do nothing until the fall or some other time. We ignore the lapse of the moratorium that we passed. It becomes immaterial.
Right, if you ignore the lapse of the moratorium, by then, the ordinance will presumably be in place unless they
The town ordinance
go. Town
would
ordinance.
be in place.
So you're gonna get 18 months prohibition, you don't need it.
God, I have another question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, okay, just, so if we said no, because of the potential for a referendum and all that, so we just said no today, and then in 18 months, they don't do a referendum, and they don't make a decision, can we revisit our minutes?
Sure.
Like, is there anything that stop, not minutes, our regs, is there anything that would stop us from revisiting those regulations?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay, all right.
And the other thing is that the selectmen could truncate their ordinance period once they figure out what the referendum is all about. If the referendum happened earlier or didn't happen in November, they could take action in December, or they could take action in November knowing that it's not on the,
You have to amend the ordinance,
but they'd amend they could do that.
if the referendum passed in favor of retail sales, then you could rescind the ordinance, so there would be this confusion. And then
But
it
if-
falls-
But if they knew that nobody had succeeded in putting a referendum on the ballot, then they could take action in October
Yes.
before so
How-
there could be,
Oh, because no one applied, okay.
if there's not gonna be, they're waiting for,
Yep.
allowing for a referendum. If the referendum didn't get set up, then they could say, okay, now it's time for us to decide.
Once and for all.
At almost any time, once they want to.
Right. And if they said, we like the prohibition, we want to keep it in place, and we just delete the sunset clause, the rest of it stays effective.
Right. But I think we should just wait until, as he's recommended, wait until February or March after they've got their ordinance in place to see what it really says.
So the public hearing would be February 13th, it's scheduled for,
Yes, it's already scheduled.
in front of the Board of Selectmen on that ordinance.
Then when do we meet? Do you know?
So you would,
We meet on the 6th of February and the 6th of March.
We don't meet a second time in February.
No, George Washington's birthday, and
So the 6th of March is when we would revise our regs
We
per their
could.
ordinance.
yeah,
Okay.
knowing that what the ordinance
I'm
said.
just asking timeline.
Meeting March 6th, you'll know what the results of the referendum.
Ordinance.
are.
Okay.
Yeah, because the schedule now is to get the draft in front of the board at their next meeting, I think next week, Monday, and then send it to the public hearing, starting with scheduling, and then presumably after that night, because they've already discussed it.
So you're suggesting, I mean, speculating on the possibility there won't be 4 votes in favor of that ordinance that you've worked so hard to draft at their direction?
Well, I think there will, because there were 4 votes in favor of
Right.
asking for the ordinance.
Right.
I
Yeah.
can't presume that.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. What if after all this, they don't have the
Well, we have
ordinance?
a
and then we're-
moratorium in place that covers us
yes.
until after that.
Yeah, okay,
I
So,
think you're well covered no matter what happens until then.
okay.
Well, I feel like, I mean, my own opinion is I feel like we've put in so many hours, so much time on this question. I can't see, I'm with Chris Peterson, I can't see passing this off on others or anybody else in terms of, there's gonna be a new group. You know, when we get into the new calendar year, there's gonna be some changes here, right? And the benefit of all those people who came out to talk to us and that we saw, talk to the Board of Selectmen, there's no value to that.
Right.
That leaves me concerned. I mean, I know my feeling isn't gonna change on this between now and May, or now and November, or now and next year. I mean, but, and I'll be here, so I'm not, going anywhere, but I'm concerned about that. We put in a lot of effort and a lot of time. And I don't feel like our friends in the state legislature gave fair consideration to that confounded structure they put into the statute that they passed.
Part of the,
It's too bad.
I think that part of the reason they did it is because there's so many different forms of government throughout the state. I mean, every town has a little bit of surrounding, but a lot of towns operate as a meeting. It's hard to do a one-size-fits-all. So what they did is they created 2 rather confusing options between zoning commissions and those. But they are all powerful, so it's.
Right.
and there are also a number of legislators proposing new cannabis statutes.
This is one that's gonna change every year. It's already changed once. I mean, there used to be a limit of 1 per town,
Right.
25,000, now they're getting rid of that.
Yep.
And I think every year you're gonna see a tweak to it at least.
Right. and there's-
Anyway,
So even with our moratorium till May, where does that leave? If someone wanted to come in with a new manufacturing plant in Simsbury, do we have a is our moratorium only on retail, or is our,
Moratorium covered all cannabis establishments.
all right, so it would also prevent us from doing a special exception to change the existing one?
The existing
I'm going
cannabis.
to charge you for this.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, you could, yeah, you could, presumably you could amend your moratorium if you chose to act before the end of the moratorium. Moratorium's nothing but a temporary text amendment.
Yeah,
You have-
but that takes time, yeah.
Yeah, you could do that if you want to act before May 8th.
do we have to do a public hearing to end the moratorium?
Yeah, it's a text amendment.
To end it
So
early.
remember what we
Ended
did
early.
with this draft is that moratorium is deleted as part of this draft text amendment that we advertised and went to public hearing on. It was removed, right, so.
Okay, so-
Put it in the language.
You could act on this in March, which would automatically, because presumably in March, you no longer have the need for the moratorium on retail. So you could act in March on this, which deletes the moratorium, and you could change only what you want to change, how you want to change it.
And I think those minor revisions because of the town ordinance of us making it not permitted.
Right.
I mean, I don't think that would require a second public hearing, certainly. I don't think it would.
No, I don't think so, because you're doing less, not more,
Yeah.
than what you put to public hearing. And, the purpose of the moratorium is to give you time to figure out how you want to approach the whole subject, and once you reach that decision point, then presumably the purpose of the moratorium is satisfied. Moratorium, the shorter they are, the better they are.
Diane?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so what have we decided? We're gonna put in, we did a lot of talking here. I just want to be sure we're clear. So we're saying is we are going to not allow it with a little asterisk, or we're just gonna not allow it? Or we're gonna wait till March after the first
We're
selectmen's
gonna wait till
meeting?
March.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we're deferring the tabling the motion until our March meeting.
Right.
okay.
So you got a little time.
And at that time,
And then we'll come back, right, with that portion that deals with the retail, and then you have, you know, a couple of outstanding issues related to the manufacturing and how to permit that. And I think there's some discussion that doesn't need to be had.
Yeah, and how to depict the retail, prohibition on retail sales within the text of the zoning regulations. Ask first, no, ask for a second.
And remember, you'll see those revisions and you get to, you know, you get to respond and recommend and do that for you.
In the state reg, they have dispensary in with manufacturing,
Yeah,
which is confusing to me,
very.
because,
Those are the hybrids, right?
That's definition.
I think those are.
well, I wasn't quite sure how that applies. I
Okay.
mean,
I've got hybrid retailer. Is that it?
Yeah, because it was a
It's
manufacturer
in
and
the
now it's allowed to
manufacturing.
be a retailer.
Individual business that sells, supplies, or offers. Manufacturer is individual business that participates in any aspect of extraction or fusion.
I thought there was a hybrid manufacturer, there was also a hybrid retailer.
Dispensary.
I think that, I'm not sure that I read it that way. I thought the dispensary meant a place, if not under manufacturing, it's a standalone dispensary facility.
Yeah.
It talks about, I mean, essentially dispensary facility now means sales to medicinal.
Yeah, exactly. I always thought the
Right.
hybrid meant medicinal and retail, not manufacturing and dispensary.
Right.
Would mean medicinal only.
Yeah,
Hybrid retailer is recreational and medical.
yeah.
Retail.
Dispensary is, purchase for medical or recreation. So it looks like they added recreational to the.
Okay.
Not sure what the difference between retailer and dispensary is.
I have a question, George. For March, when we come back and we are maybe adding not permitted, are we doing that for delivery? Are we doing that for everything?
Can't do it for deliveries.
Can't do it for delivery.
The state statute says you can't prohibit delivery. So if you have a store in Canton and they have a Uber Eats or something,
Right.
you cannot prohibit delivery in Simsbury.
Okay.
So no.
Okay.
Unless so directed by you. So the current draft, remember the draft was affirmative, it permitted retail in B3 and permitted all of the other manufacturing cultivation in, this comes right out of the draft ordinance. Special exception in I1 and I2. So that's what it says today, that's what.
Right,
drafted
that's-
and went to public hearing.
That's manufacturing. I just asked about delivery.
delivery, we can't regulate.
Can't touch
Delivery so I think we say delivery is permitted probably, but.
Yeah,
we
it's
cannot
in,
make
it's
it
not here, it's in a different area. That's why I was asking if we're going to,
Yeah,
yeah,
so in this definition, if you look at the last word,
transporter.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't have
But
a
it's-
transporter in Simsbury, but you could have a transporter in Canton or Avon or Farmington.
Delivery's not gonna use, delivery's an act.
Right.
We don't classify that as a use.
Okay. It was in some of our drafts.
So,
Okay,
wait a
I
second.
would do that.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly.
What you're saying is that we can't prohibit transporters from crossing the borders of our town
Right.
and using our roads.
Yeah.
Right.
But we can prohibit a company be based here and have that be their primary
So
activity.
can we do that? Can we specify that?
Can you specify what?
There's no delivery from a Simsbury residence, Simsbury location?
No.
to or from?
No, that's,
At Simsbury residence.
No, not to. Not-
From, you could-
Excuse me.
Yeah, bless
yeah,
you.
right.
it's still the retail sale before.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It supports retail sales.
It's all in here, so I'm asking you so that we know in March what we're looking at, because there is so much. So if we're not permitting various things, I just wanted to ask that now.
There won't be any place to to have cannabis to
There's
transport.
no retail.
Right. There's so much in here, and I just want it to be very clear when we get to that.
You know,
I mean,
that's a
somebody
good
from
point.
Simsbury can drive up to Canada.
Thanks, Bob.
And buy it and
I think the
transport it.
ordinance has to specifically prohibit transport.
I thought so.
Transport
Well, again,
from
the
where?
current draft has it as a special exception.
Yes,
That it currently does.
but if the board of selectmen, I think the intent was that you, because for me, transporters, or retail sales made in town of Simsbury, it's put in a car and delivered somewhere. You know,
Transporter could deliver to Avon and not Simsbury.
Yeah, as long as the
Okay,
transporter
well-
doesn't originate in Simsbury.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's like FTD florist, right? I mean, you know where it's flowers coming from.
Good point.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Well, as long as Bob's here. This is just a little bit astray of where we are, but in terms of ultimately the best strategy for the people of the town of Simsbury, whether to have the retail sales managed or controlled by the Board of Selectmen versus the Zoning Commission, I thought that you had written a letter to Maria that was fairly clear on that point, that there was an advantage if the Board of Selectmen was, took charge of retail sales. It went forward and they took charge of it. That they could manage retail sales in a way that you don't have to give the special permission that stays with the land. That they could do some sort of a permit arrangement, and it would, if the thing wasn't renewed or for whatever reason, it could be terminated. But if it comes to the zoning commission and our protocols, we'd be dealing, in order to have a special, to have a public hearing associated with enabling retail sales, we have to do that with a special permit.
Right.
And the special permit goes with the land forever.
What I was referencing is passing a licensing ordinance at the Board of Selectmen level that says you need a town license to be a retailer.
Right.
And at the zoning commission level, your regulation would say you grant a special permit provided you maintain your license. So if your license isn't renewed for whatever reason, you would have no, then the special exception would expire. It wouldn't.
The special exception approved by the zoning commission would
Special exception
expire.
approved by the
Okay.
town. It's the way adult establishments are regulated in most towns. There's a licensing process
Okay.
by ordinance. So that is an option. Now, durational special permits are tricky. One of the leading cases is Basil versus Town of Simsbury. It's hard to effectively put a durational limit on a special permit because they run with the land.
So we, if we went that route, though, we don't have that in the ordinance the way we drafted.
No, you do, you'd have to do it in a public hearing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because that wasn't in the public hearing draft, so we have to have
And we should have discussion about that. I think there are pros and cons to it.
that. There are.
Well, we discussed the con of, once you permit, we're only allowing one.
Right.
And so once you allow one parcel to have it, we can't do any other, and if that never gets built, then you
It's
exclude
only
that.
one as long as no one comes in and asks for a text amendment.
When you're only allowing one, it doesn't mean that you're only permitting one place, though.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
Well, not if the person moves out of that place and the other person isn't using it that way, then
No, they have to go,
technically-
but they would have to go into that same place.
No, if somebody was selling out of a house that was permitted and then moved, and somebody moved into the house and just lived there and weren't selling, then somebody else technically could come in, right, and ask for a different place, because you'd still only have one establishment.
Yeah, you
No.
could. You could.
Yeah.
You could.
You could ask,
You
you
could.
could ask as a condition of approval for the release of the special permit on the first location. right?
Yeah, I mean, there are towns who have way more
Liquor
special
stores,
exception for liquor licenses than they do
Approved.
total numbers, so.
never
it-
built.
It can happen.
Right.
It just, it would take administrative oversight to say, you can open, but you can't, because we only allow one, so You don't have it.
Well, one of the things I think we have to consider on the 7th is whether we want to, after we say no, but we need to discuss whether or not we want to limit it to one in the 18 months out when we actually enable it, if we're enabling it. By that time, we probably will know a lot more about whether limiting it to one is a good idea or not.
I mean, what
We
if
wouldn't know about
one
Simsbury, though.
doesn't work out in the location that it is, and it's problematic? Then we want to have the ability.
You
We would have
can't,
to,
you
I
can't
think
pick
we'd
it up
have
and
to
move
do
it.
another text amendment then.
You'd have to make it different.
Well, not if that person didn't stay there, like he said, technically,
You
then,
grant the second
You-
special exception subject to a release of the first. So you still only have one, but it'd be in a different location.
But you'd
But
have to
the
get,
landlord doesn't have to give you a release though.
No, he doesn't.
right, and you have to get it, you have to have them abandon the right.
That would be through the release of the special exception.
What if they said no?
And
And the-
so,
What if
They
they
can't,
didn't
'cause-
want to? They want to just hold on to
Yeah,
it because they
could
might
keep it
need
forever.
it. Yeah,
just like the liquor thing.
Marketplace take care of that.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think we probably wouldn't want to limit it to one in the end, 2 years
Well,
from
that's the
now.
way we have it written. As
That's the way we have it written now. But I think we need to revisit that.
I can't imagine there being need for multiple in one town.
no, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think that we need to worry about, like,
Well, we heard a lot
stuck
of
in one place.
Unless,
well-intended citizens argue that zero is the right number for Simsbury, none. So, but we know that at any given time, somebody can walk in and drop off an application for a text amendment. And we're gonna be looking at a text amendment, or we could do it ourselves to go from 1 to 2, or 1 to 5, or unlimited, or whatever. I mean,
Right.
there's nothing, I mean, it's the same as the legislature every year with their changes to the way they regulate liquor sales, and, yada, yada.
Right, well,
It's
liquor
never
is a
over.
state,
It's
there's
never
a
over.
state limit, I believe,
I've
still.
heard that rumor. I don't know that there is, but,
Yeah, there is.
yeah.
is that
But
gone
it's
too?
subject to change.
Seems a little
Oh, the state
excessive,
limit
the
on number of
but-
No,
package
no,
stores
no.
within a town.
Package stores, there are,
It's
It still exists. 'Cause-
it's very high.
Yeah, yeah,
It's higher
Yeah.
than-
yeah. Because the marijuana one originally had that same kind of limit, and then
But
they got rid of that with the revision.
right.
Anything else we
Anyway, so
should
Bruce
consider?
is right, though, Donna. So Bruce is right. When somebody, let's suppose we gave a special exception that didn't get used, somebody came in and said, I'd like it over here, they could propose a text amendment. It's going to be to say, make it 2 or make it 5 or whatever. And then we would probably go ahead and do it because this one's moribund,
Or we
Right.
would,
Okay.
or we wouldn't, Dave.
or we wouldn't, or we wouldn't,
Don't forget that.
no, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
You have complete discretion.
Yeah, I just want to get away from the fact that once we pick one place, or if we were to, that it's stuck, necessarily there.
Right.
I don't think there's anything else that you haven't considered that you should consider. I think it's, at this point, it's been very well discussed by both your commission and the Board of Selectmen. I think there's a path ahead now, it's fairly defined.
I think when they do
Yes.
that training course, they should have a whole session on this. I know the agenda's already set, but I think we've
Yeah.
proven that there's enough topic in 45 minutes, we've discussed this.
Well, it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Okay, we ready to move on?
No, I think, we're on, are we
We
on?
need at least a motion.
Yeah, we need to table, we need a motion to
your
table.
Oh, yeah.
I would, motion to forward it to your March 6th meeting for continued
Yes.
discussion.
Somebody want to make that?
I would
motion?
move that we, I don't have it up there.
Oh, I don't either, sorry.
That we table application 22-32 of the Simsbury Zoning Commission until our March 6th meeting. March
You say
6th.
table, you
Yeah.
simply mean to continue.
Continue.
Continue, okay.
Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Donna. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody abstaining? Carry 6-0. It's continued to March 6th.
Nice to see you all.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Good night, Bob.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Bob. Thanks for coming. Okay. George, general commission business.
Okay, so Joe should have sent everybody a link to the 2023 Connecticut Land Use Training Session in March. If you did not get it, let me know, we'll send it to you. We're asking you to, I don't know if you're familiar with that, that's the all-day Saturday in March Connecticut Bar, used to be held at Wesleyan, it's gonna be virtual for probably the second, at least the second straight time. So if you are interested, we certainly strongly encourage members of the zoning commission to take that class, because if you recall, you do have required continuing education now under the state law that has to be accomplished in 2023 for sitting members.
I did it like 2 years ago.
Does not count.
What?
Where is this year's?
It's
Zoom.
It'll be on
Oh,
Zoom.
virtual.
It'll be Zoom. It'll be a Zoom call, so.
We just let you know?
We, you can send it, Joe, we'll sign everybody up at once.
Got it.
Because remember, the requirement is for the planning commission, the zoning commission, and the zoning board of appeals under the new state law, so we'll try to sign everybody up all at once.
So not to be difficult, but I'm just curious why, like, do you have to do these every year? Is that the rule, or why? How often are you supposed to do that?
You don't need to be difficult.
Well,
No, so the enable legislation, the PA 2129, required, is part of that legislation, required sitting commissioners to take continuing education, 4 hours, 8 hours, I'll let you know what the number is, but, yeah.
but I'm just saying, but if I did it already, like, does it have to be done yearly?
It's a calendar year effective, has to be done during the year 2023.
Got it. That's the part I missed.
I-
Okay.
I thought there was something there that
2024,
one
not
session was not enough to meet the
Looks
reg.
like it's almost enough, but not 100%.
So if you take that one plus the Yukon.
Yes, which we should send you as well.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah, we got that.
Today, yeah. So if we take the both, do we know if they add up to enough credit?
I'll do the math on that. So
Well, both said they are almost enough, so if you,
So I think if we combine them, it's my job to make sure that what covers what, so I'll do that.
All right, and is there someone monitoring your virtual presence so that they know that you're there for the 8
Of
hours?
course, doing that.
Just a
Well,
question.
This is an on your honor type of,
Yeah, there's no punishment if you don't do it, right?
and there's no punishment under the law, but, maybe you're subject to future suit or something like that, if you deny a zoning ordinance, zoning request, and one of your members isn't, I guess somebody will try to probably use that as a point in a future suit.
Or an election.
And obviously, we'll sign you up and we'll pay for that.
Okay, good.
So do we go through you or do we sign up directly?
No. Don't sign up directly, because if you
That's
sign
what I
up
thought.
directly, you have to pay, and I'm not reimbursing you.
So you're gonna take care
I
of
hear
it.
that. I'm not
Send it to Joe
difficult.
that says, sign me up.
Okay.
Okay.
well, I don't remember specifics in the regulation when I read it, like, when was that, 2 years ago, a year ago? About the content of the education that you need to engage in or have accomplished.
So
Is there now some
there is a
description of the
ratio that
content?
says, 4 hours of general land use study, 1 hour
Okay.
of affordable housing or fair housing, and then an hour on, I think it's sustainability, or I think it's sustainability.
Could
I'll
you,
write you a little memo on it.
I would appreciate it, then we don't all have to
Yeah,
look
I'll
for
do
it. I'm not sure everybody's gonna,
Yeah.
but,
Well, the Yukon ones was how to run a meeting. One of the sessions.
Making a decision. I like that.
All right, POCD update.
Oh, yeah, you're reading it.
Running a
Okay.
meeting and making a decision.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. Okay.
The planning commission's gonna host a community meeting, community forum, community interactive public meeting on Monday, January 30th at 7 p.m. at Henry James. Everyone's invited. There will be interactive planning exercises to participate in. Glenn Chalder is running that session. And I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about it and was invited. So this is in person at Henry James.
How much, or what percentage of residents have responded to the
We
survey?
had 740 responses that, that survey's closed, and we're putting together how to get it onto the website and make the results available to everybody.
Nice.
So it's some interesting data to come out of it.
Yeah, it
January
wasn't-
30th is 7 PM, right? At Henry James? Sorry.
Was it on their agenda or something? I mean, it was available, right?
What's that?
Their report.
Yeah, we gave a presentation, I've got more data, I'm gonna put it all up.
Okay, yeah, because I guess you could go through their meeting or something and see the presentation that was.
Yeah, the presentations, although I don't think we posted it yet. You know what it was in their agenda,
Yeah.
in their agenda
Yeah,
packet. So, but we're gonna try to post that information on the
So,
website.
okay.
And then the last thing, Mr. Ryan and I talked a long time ago about it, but the chairman of the planning commission would like to have a meeting or have a joint meeting or have a meeting that includes the zoning commission, particularly related to implementation. And so would like to think about how to do that, what the best way to do that is.
Wait.
I'm not suggesting a joint meeting, I'm just, there's gotta be a way to interact with you on kind of the policy stuff that they come up with. Hey, you should revise the ordinance to do this, you should revise the ordinance to do that, maybe we should focus on this. But we shouldn't produce it in an update if there's no buy-in from the zoning commission. So we have to figure out a way to interact, on that. So if you have thoughts, let me know. David and I'll talk
Okay.
as we go on, about the best way to do that.
We could have a meeting. The last go-around, I think, with the POCD, or at least maybe it was the one before, there was kind of a list of things for the zoning commission to
The
consider.
last one has it too. Yeah, they just kind of assign us things without ever asking us.
Right, now they want to ask
We
us.
want to not repeat that. We want to not repeat that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, it was at least two in a row of no ask.
they have,
I can
yeah.
attest to that. So
They just assign, and nothing happens.
right.
I can't
Lo and
understand.
behold.
Well,
Okay.
If we have buy-in, then we'll be able to, say, hey,
You-
you bought in on this, and here's your amendment to do this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay,
That's all I got.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
second by Diane, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries 6-0. Nobody abstained.